What's up, guys? My name is Raghu Adibatla, and this is Talking Funny. What's up, guys? My name is Raghu Adibatla. This is Talking Funny. I do this every Thursday, sometimes other days, but today is Thursday at a special time. My guest tonight is Tom Filline. This guy's hilarious. I met him years ago when I moved to the suburbs, and I thought, hey, what mic am I going to do here? But they got this great mic at the Comedy Shrine that he runs, and he's also a great comic who performs all over the Midwest. So we're going to bring him on right now. Tom Filline.
Hey, there I am. Hey, can you hear me? Is this
I can hear you
working?
dude.
Okay, I just got this thing. Hey,
Can you hear me all
thank
right?
you. Yeah, this is great. That was a cool little intro and everything. Thank you.
You look very comfortable, man. You're the
I
first
am.
guest I've had on a hammock.
This is the coziest spot. It's my favorite spot. I don't get to hang out here very often. So, and it's also quiet because I have 3-year-olds in the house. My wife works from home, so
yeah,
it's nice and peaceful out here.
I get it, man. I got 2 kids. I know exactly how that is. Trying to find some peace and quiet, not easy.
No, not at all.
Man, look, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
You're absolutely hilarious. I love you do a lot in the burbs. You do a lot for the comedy scene. You're a comic. You're a producer. We're gonna get into all that, but I want you to take us back to when you started comedy. Why did you get into stand-up comedy? What made you do it? And tell us about your start.
Like how far back do I go?
Like when you decided, hey, I'm going to try stand-up comedy.
I mean, I was always like, I was always a comedian, like in my family. Me and my brother, I guess my brother and I were comedians together. He's also a stand-up. He dabbles. And I mean, from like a young age when we were kids, we used to make sketches with my dad. Had this giant, like old camcorders that would go on your shoulder. You'd put the entire VHS tape inside and you have to like mount it. And we were like barely big enough to lift the thing, but we figured out how to work it. We commandeered that thing and we used to make sketches just for each other. He was my first audience and vice versa. I was for him. And then in high school, I guess I officially started doing comedy. I joined my high school had an improv team, which I was such a bum in high school. I was so lazy. My parents didn't really push me to do any sports or anything. But I was interested in theater. I always kind of had like an inner, I wanted to be on stage and perform. So I took a theater class. My theater teacher happened to be the coach of the improv team, and she encouraged me to try out. So I did, and I got my start in improv in high school. And then I didn't do any improv or any comedy at all through college because this is a whole other thing that I don't know if you want me to get into it all, but I decided I was going to be a professional wrestler. And so through college, I went to wrestling school while I was in college. I was taking, college classes during the day and training with Big Cat Curtis Hughes down in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I wrestled in the indie circuit for like 3.5 years. Quit that. It was like getting in the way of finishing school. It was kind of I didn't really see a future in it. It was very painful. And so I quit that, went a few years, didn't do anything. Then I got back into improv, did Second City. I was in the conservatory program. That was depressing. They sucked all the fun out of improv comedy for me because the auditions were just terrible. I was horrible at auditioning to this day. Like the thought of it gives me PTSD. And I kind of decided all along I had wanted to try stand-up. I think I just didn't have the confidence to get up there. But my experience with improv had gotten so, like, it had gotten to be such a chore that I was like, all right, I gotta do this. I gotta get on stage by myself with my own material and do it for myself. So I did. I tried. I started stand up officially in like 2015. I think I started in the city because I didn't know of anywhere to perform in the suburbs. You know, I thought if I want to do stand up, I got to go to the city. I got to go to Chicago. Just like with improv. So I started in the city, and then I eventually found my way out to the Comedy Shrine in Aurora, which is where I still am now.
Yeah.
Every week.
Yeah, so. And you do great for the Shrine, man. You definitely, you're a great asset to them. And
thank you.
But that's interesting. So you like to 2015, and then only like, what was it? Only like a year later or so that you started the Shrine, right? Yeah.
I got kind of lucky. No, not kind of, like really lucky. My wife and I moved to Aurora, and the house that she fell in love with, that I fell in love with, just happened to be like 3 minutes away from the Comedy Shrine. I had already been attending. Awesome. I'd already been attending the open mic, which at the time was hosted and produced by the wonderful and hilarious Jack Baker, who I'm sure everyone's aware of. And so I had been going there. And then when we moved here, I started going every week. I was like, babe, this is going to be my thing once a week. I'm going to go. And we didn't have any kids at the time. So she was like, that's fine. Go do your thing. So I was going every Monday, and I just happened to be there every week at the time when Jack decided that he didn't want to do it anymore. He just kind of got sick of it. Wow. He's still very active in the scene. Like, he headlines and features all over the place. He just didn't want to run the open mic anymore. So I was one of the people that he felt comfortable with. There was actually two of us. He reached out and said, hey, I'm going to be stepping down. I don't want to do this anymore. Would you like to take over? And I was like, hell yes. Like, this is at the time, that was like a huge break for me, because I didn't have all that much experience. I had no experience producing shows. So I was like, of course I want to take it. So I did. And
what was that, like 2016, or when was that?
That was, I think, towards the end of 2016. I think. Yeah.
That makes sense. We moved to the burbs in October 2016. And right away I was trying to look for mics. And I found the one at the Shrine, and I don't think it was like shortly after moving where I started coming to the Shrine. You could have fooled me, man. Like, I thought you've been doing that forever, because you did pretty well. And
I guest hosted a couple times, but that's about it.
Wow. Now, you were talking about improv, and you're saying that it was a chore, but did it help in any way, like in your stand-up?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, being on stage as an improviser and just having to come up with stuff on the fly and looking for the funny and, like, mundane scenes that you would do in improv absolutely helps. And to this day, like, I always recommend, anytime people, like newer comics, come to me for advice, I'm like, yes, absolutely do improv. If you can afford it, take an improv class, or just come to the improv jam at the Comedy Shrine on Mondays, because it does help. But and it was fun. Like, I went to IO in the city. I don't know if you're familiar with.
Oh yeah. I know IO. Yeah.
That was a blast. Like, they made it so much fun, and I think they're dead now. They're not around. I think they closed their theater. The Annoyance Theater was fun, and Second City was fun for a little while, but man, Second City is like, there's so many people there competing for like a dozen spots on Saturday Night Live, because everybody there thinks they're going to get to Saturday Night Live, but in reality, there's so few spots and just thousands of people. And it's hard to make money in improv too. That's another thing. So it just became like I said, the auditions were just brutal. I had a teacher. So I did 2 levels of conservatory. The first level, I had a blast. It was like level 1. It was like gateway. We're going to have so much fun. You're going to want to keep coming back and keep giving us all your money for these improv classes. And it worked. I fell in love with it. But then level 2 conservatory, I had a teacher. His name was Michael. I don't remember his last name, and I don't care because I don't like him. But he hated me so much, and he had all these dumb rules. Like, he would say things. He would make up rules just to screw me over. Like, I had this thing. My favorite thing to do in improv is to play a little kid, because I have a really fun little kid voice, and I do like this little kid lisp when I talk. He stopped me right away, and he's like, "No, you can never play a character that's more than 4 years away from your actual age. No, don't do that anymore.
What?
I'm like, but that's my favorite. And he would do little things like that. And finally, he sat us all down to explain that his vision for improv was to have like Broadway quality improv shows that people would pay hundred, like Broadway prices to go see. And he's like, and it's not even going to be funny. We're going to be dramatic. We're going to do full Broadway productions, but they're going to be improvised.
What?
And I'm like, dude, I just want to be funny. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to charge that much money for a show. I just want to make people laugh. And that's when I kind of, that was like the beginning of the end, because after level 2, you have to re-audition again in level 3.
Okay.
And it just killed it for me. Just killed it for me. So I re-auditioned like 2 or 3 times, didn't get in, and finally I was like, I'm gonna do stand-up, because this isn't working out.
Oh my God. I think he's in the wrong teaching there. He needs to teach drama or something.
I think he's still there. As far as I know, he's still there. I have no idea though. But my brother also had him in conservatory, and he felt the same way that I did. He was like, this guy sucks.
But improv, I've never seen a dramatic improv. Like, I've never seen a serious improv is based off of like those funny, like shock value, like, you know, where you're reacting and
like, it's pot. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've seen some really good improv, especially when I was at IO. They had improvised musicals, improvised Star Trek episodes. Like, they had an improvised puppet show. And it wasn't always completely silly and humorous. Like the Comedy Shrine, we do short form improv, which is like Whose Lines It Anyway? Very quick-witted, like quick scenes. But IO, they would do long improv scenes, like 20 to 30 minute long improv scenes, just based off of one suggestion. And it was really good, but it was always funny. It was always fun. Like, and that's the whole point. Like, that's why I got into it. I want to be funny. I want to make people laugh. And that guy just, he killed the dream.
The whole point of improv is not being directed how you. I mean, there's certain games you got to learn, or like there's certain structure, but like
like if I want to be an octopus or something, if I want to be a drunk eagle flying through the sky, like let me do it. You know,
exactly.
It's silly.
That's the whole point of improv. When you started out doing comedy, like who were you watching? Who were your influencers in comedy?
Super early, the Three Stooges.
Nice.
Yeah, so me and my brother and my dad used to. We had like my dad had VHS tapes that I'm pretty sure we recorded Three Stooges. We would watch those sketches over and over and over again. And it's kind of funny because my brother and I kind of rediscovered them later on in life. And now one of our favorite things to do when we get together is to drink and watch the Three Stooges. And we're really trying to get our boys into it as well. But yeah, Three Stooges. I watched a lot of sitcoms with my mom, actually. We did not have cable as when I was a kid, because we lived out in unincorporated West Chicago. My parents would always explain it to me that our driveway was too long. Like the cable company wouldn't run a cable up to our house, and this was before satellite. So long story short, that's a stupid detail, but we didn't have like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or any of that stuff that kids would normally watch. So I watched my after school, funny stuff for kids, but then at night I'd be watching like Friends and Seinfeld and Mad About You with my mom. So like Three Stooges, Seinfeld, those are like my earliest influences. And then later on, once I became like a quote unquote student of comedy, I really was into Mitch Hedberg a lot in college, which is kind of funny because like I feel like I suck at one-liners, and he was like the king of that. But I love watching a lot of the older stuff like George Carlin, Rodney Dangerfield. Nowadays, Hannah Gadsby is one of my like favorite current comedians. Of course, Dave Chappelle. Like I don't know. I try to take in a big variety and not like stick to one type of comedian or one style of comedy. I try to absorb as much as possible. And thankfully now there's like so much out there, especially on YouTube, Netflix. Like there's so much available right now. So
that's true. That's true. And when you were starting out, you're writing jokes, how long did it take before you kind of find out, hey, this is the comic I want to be, this is my writing process? you know?
Yeah. I think I'm still figuring that out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still I think I finally recently started to get a grasp of like
Okay.
that, when you're first starting out and you're still writing stuff down and you're like not even sure if it's funny. Like
Yeah,
you
of
think
course.
it's funny to you, but you're not sure if you're going to be able to communicate the funny
Right.
to
Right.
an audience. So
Right.
that I did a lot of that, and I think I still do that sometimes, but I have to remind
Yeah.
myself that I feel like I can finally trust my own sense of humor. And like
Right.
if I think something is funny, it is funny. I just have to figure out the right words, to make it
Right.
funny to an audience. So I don't know if that answers
Exactly.
your
Yeah.
question. That's kind of a
No, no, it does. It definitely does. And I think you're right. It's like it doesn't matter really how many years. I think that's something that people you still critique, you're a hard critique on your own joke. I mean, even to this day, Seinfeld has like I mean, of all the like he's the biggest critique of his own.
yeah.
Like he's very meticulous in this, and then, and I think that's something that's always going to be there because you're always going to analyze whether it's funny or not. If it's going to be funny on stage, if it's going to, if you're not doing that, then you shouldn't be writing at
Yeah.
all. I think,
And
because
there's
you
those
have
moments when like
to.
I'll get so excited about a joke. I wrote like 10 minutes worth of dodgeball jokes recently because I'm a PE
That's awesome.
teacher, and the topic of dodgeball just makes me laugh so much because
Yeah.
it's such a controversial thing in our industry. And I went up at Riddles because this was before the Shrine opened after COVID,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a complete bomb, but the audience, I could tell, was just kind of like, okay, is this like what is the big deal with dodgeball? And
Right.
I was so bummed out afterwards. I was like, because I know this is funny, but can I make
Yeah.
this funny to everybody else who doesn't like understand
Yeah.
gym teacher, the world of
Exactly.
being a gym teacher? So
I think we all started like that, where it's like you think it's funny and you get up there. It's like very quick. Like, hey, I think this is funny. I'm going to take it on stage. But I
yeah,
think as you get more into it, you become a better comic when you analyze your jokes and like really think about it. Like, okay, let me think about this, and then that confidence grows, right? Like
right.
you're saying,
That's
like
what
where
it's all
you,
about.
yeah,
That's what it was all about for me, is just finding
yeah,
my confidence. I've always struggled with, to this day, I have like a
right,
huge, big case of imposter syndrome, like just big time confidence issues. And I don't know why, I don't know when it started, but it haunts me to
yeah,
this day. But I feel like I finally recently started to get my confidence
okay,
on stage to where I can write something down. Like I said, I know it's funny. I just have to find the right words. And
right,
if I can't find those words, then I'll just say screw it and I'll keep laughing to myself about it.
right. Of course.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So have you kept up the same style of like what you were writing about? Are you where your material and stuff, or was there at some point where you're like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna try this stuff now, or where was it always the same thing?
Um, it was always more or less the same. I
Okay.
don't know. Early on, when I first started doing open mics, I was trying really hard to be as clean as possible.
Okay.
Because that's another thing, is I've always had guilt issues. I was raised evangelical, so just
Okay.
guilt was a big part of my life. And
Okay.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to do too much cursing. I definitely didn't want to talk about sex, anything, too sinful like that. So I would talk about a lot of nerdy stuff. Like I
Okay.
remember one of my earliest sets was about Pluto, the planet Pluto, because they had just released the first photographs of Pluto. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is funny because when I was a kid, the only photographs of Pluto were like blurry. And I just thought Pluto was a blurry planet, and nobody
Yeah.
laughed. And I'm like, well, that's funny, isn't it? And
Right.
my wife had come to, she's always been like, she's a huge supporter of mine,
Yeah.
but she's also, and I do this to her too with what she's passionate about, because that's just the kind of relationship we have. She's also a big
Yeah.
critic of mine, so she
Of
critiques.
course.
She's
Yeah.
not afraid to tell me like, what are you doing? And at the time she was like, why are you talking about all this nerd shit like this? Nobody cares. Like you care about that, but this is dumb. You need to be relatable. You need to talk about stuff that people care about.
Yeah.
So I took that to heart. I no longer do
Yeah.
the Pluto bit. So I tried to be more relatable, and then I started to try to dabble in like you know, I kind of dropped. I tried to get over the whole guilt thing. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna write I'm going to do what I want and say what I want to say and say. I'm not going to worry about the guilt, because at the end of the day, they're just jokes. So I started telling like dick jokes and stuff. I still remember the first time I ever talked about like sex on stage, and it was so uncomfortable. I don't think I got a lot of laughs that night at all. I was like, I'm never doing that again. So I kind of just a lot of dabbling back and forth, just kind of, again, like early on, just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what people are going to laugh at, before I finally realized, like, okay, they can laugh. I can make them laugh at anything that I find funny if I find the right words, you know, to make it funny to them.
Exactly.
So I might go back to who knows, I might try the Pluto bit again. I don't know. I still think about it sometimes.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, dude. You know, I love your process. Hey, that's what mics are for. You know, you get up there and you see what the punching bag. And I love that you hit on that point about relatability. And I know I was like, I always research, of course, about the comics I have, and I know you do private events. And I was reading some of the reviews, and all good. Like, I mean, of course, like, you're hilarious. But the one thing that I kept seeing was, you're a relatable comic. Like, we were laughing at him because, man, it was almost like, oh my God, yeah, I know what he's talking about. Like, that's funny. Like, and I think that's so important, right? And which is good. Like that, you know, that's what I think you were saying. Your wife even said that, like, why don't you just talk about things that people can relate to, and it's, you know, it's simple. And but yeah, that it was interesting you said that, because that's one of the things I saw people liked about your comedy.
I think it's just because I'm such an average Joe.
Exactly.
Like I'm a white guy from the suburbs. I'm married to a woman. We have 2 kids. Like, it's such like a boring story. I think that's what people are kind of like. That's a nice way to say that I'm a very boring guy.
No.
Like, he's so relatable. There's nothing unique about him. I can relate to that. No, but
oh my God, no, man. That's I'm because I'm all about that. And I think people, when they understand what you're talking about, because they connect it to their life, and they'll laugh because it's like, holy shit, I know I've been in that same exact situation. And everybody knows gym class and dodgeball. We've all been there. Like, we're, you know, and so speaking of dodgeball, you're a teacher.
yes.
How does, I know you talk a lot about your teaching. I love your humor on like kids. I laugh my ass off every time you talk about like students and stuff. But do they know you do stand up, or is it like
no, not well. Okay. I teach elementary school.
Oh,
so
okay.
Some of like K through 5. Some of them are vaguely aware. Like, I had a student. I had a 4th grader a few years back. He's in middle school now, but he did some stand-up comedy for the talent show that we did at the end of the year. And he called me out in front of everybody when he was on stage. He was like, "Hey, Mr. Filline, you're a comedian, aren't you?" And a couple kids turned and they were like, "What?" Like, what? And I was like, like, I'm not like, I don't really necessarily like, I love making my students laugh, and I do sometimes practice, you know, my cleaner bits on them, but it's not something that I necessarily want to broadcast. Although recently I did have a mom. This actually happened to me like last month, like one of my last days at school. This mom came up to me, mom of like a 1st grader, and she's like, "Oh, we found you on social media." And as soon as I hear that, I'm like, I start sweating. Because like my Facebook page is pretty clean, Angry Gym Teacher, but my Twitter page is not. And I've been meaning to clean it up. I get nervous sometimes. Sometimes I'll get random DMs from people like, "Hey, I'm going to report you to your school district because you said F Trump or whatever," stuff like that. But so I get nervous, but she was like, "Oh no, we found the Angry Gym Teacher. We really liked it. We were laughing." And then the student's name, I guess I shouldn't say her name. Deborah, I'll make up a name. Sorry, you didn't hear me say her actual name. And then Deborah.
I don't think she's ever gonna watch this. Don't worry.
I don't know. I get randomly paranoid. That's the thing about being a teacher on social media. I get these random bits of paranoia. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't use her real name. You're right, it doesn't matter. But I'm still gonna give her a fake name. Deborah found you on YouTube, and I'm like, oh no. And the mom was like, and we actually explained to her no, that's not Mr. Filline. That's just somebody who looks like him. And then the mom turns to me and goes, right?
Right.
Like winking at me. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I don't have anything on YouTube. That must have been somebody else.
That's
So apparently
hilarious.
what I took from that was that it wasn't exactly an appropriate bit on YouTube, because I do have some questionable, like not so clean stuff on YouTube.
Yeah,
And one of my videos on YouTube actually has a comment. I don't know if it was this student, but it's a comment that says, "Hey, that's my gym teacher."
yeah.
And when I saw that, again, sweating, like immediately, like
That's
heart
crazy.
drops. But so I get moments like that. And the mom was totally cool. Like she even says, "We're excited to come see you perform. You know, once
Yeah,
things start opening back up after COVID, we're gonna come to one of your shows." So she was
that's
totally
cool.
fine with it. And
Yeah,
I've never had a moment of where parents get upset or anything, because like
yeah,
I am mostly clean, I think.
yeah.
Um,
Of course.
but not
Yeah,
all the time on social media. So I do get nervous sometimes. I
yeah.
don't broadcast that I am a comedian. But if I ever was, like, one of my dreams is to eventually teach at like a secondary, like either a middle school or a high school, and
Okay,
start a comedy program there,
that's
because
cool. Yeah,
that was a big
yeah,
influence in my life when I was in high school.
yeah,
That really helped me break out of my shell, doing
yeah,
improv comedy. So that is something that I would love to do, but not at the
yeah,
elementary level,
yeah.
where I'm at right
Definitely.
now.
Definitely. And you're clean. And even when you have material about like, like I remember your one joke about like how they and how God invented the man parts, like that whole thing.
Creation
And
of the
it's like,
penis, yeah.
yeah, it's still the whole thing was pretty clean the way you do it. It was like, and it makes it really funny because you're talking about that, but you're not being like completely dirty about it,
Right, yeah.
which makes it.
I love doing that bit, and I just recently tried to clean it up even more to where I could actually do it for like a PG-13 set, like if I'm ever doing a private event.
Oh wow.
I've tried to clean it up even more, but it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to. I feel like you can still joke about stuff like that
Yeah.
and be clean
Yeah.
ish.
Yeah.
I think about like Austin Powers and how
Right.
that entire movie was about sex, but it was still like only PG-13. So
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. That's so true. And yeah, no, you do it well.
thank
That's
you.
one of my favorite. I love that joke. I think when I started coming to the shrine when you were, that's the one joke that you were doing. And I was like, oh my god, I was laughing my ass off. Like that's so funny.
Thank you.
I know you. So you performed one time at a public high school, and afterwards you did like a Q&A
Hmm.
for like kids. And so how did that go? Like, what kind of questions do kids have for you about stand up?
Right away, they wanted to know my dirtiest bit. Of
Oh, of
course,
course. Okay.
these were like upperclassmen. I think this was a writers' week.
Okay.
Vic Pondy actually did a set the day before I did,
Oh,
like the
okay.
exact
Okay.
same day. They brought multiple comedians in that week just to give kids an idea of like what they can do with writing, because
Right.
so many kids, are constantly asking questions like, when are we going to use this? What can we actually do with this information? And the
Yeah.
teacher, who I'm still in touch with on Twitter, was like, this is why writing is important. Like, look at what you can do. You can be a cool
Yeah.
comedian. I wasn't the cool comedian, Vic was, but I was also there. And
You're a cool comedian too, man. Don't sell yourself short.
I'm not as cool as Vic. I mean, come on. But they want to know what my dirtiest bit was. I was like, I can't tell you that. What else did they ask? They asked a lot of questions about, like, were you nervous the first time? How do you get
Yeah.
started? They were pretty easy questions, I would say.
Yeah.
The hardest thing about that show was finding appropriate bits to do.
Yeah.
And maybe this was a mistake, but I was kind of nervous about performing in front of high school. More so nervous about
Right.
what the guy who booked me would think about me telling certain jokes. And I ran a few by him, and I thought that he'd be cool with them, but he actually was like, "No, don't do that one. No, don't do that one. No, don't
Oh.
don't do this one. Oh, this one's about weed. No, don't do that. Definitely don't do that one." So that was a little bit uncomfortable, but for the most part,
Right.
that was like a lot of fun. It was like
Yeah.
the biggest audience I've ever performed for.
Oh,
Granted,
nice.
they
Yeah.
had to be there because it was a school
It
day
was cool.
and it was like fourth period English technically for them. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot of fun and I got to answer questions about comedy afterwards. So
That is
yeah.
awesome, man. That is so cool. I wanted to go back and talk about like, so you were doing comedy and then you stopped to do, you were doing improv and stuff. Then you stopped to do wrestling. That's awesome. Like what, so were you, in like, so you were like doing like big matches and like in the circuit, like how was it?
Yeah. So I was not allowed to watch wrestling when I was little.
Okay.
This
Oh,
was
wow. Okay.
the 90s. I don't know. Are you familiar? Are you a wrestling fan at all?
Dude, I started watching in college. I used to hate it at first. My roommates kept watching, and then I got sucked into it.
Yeah.
And because
Well,
that was when
that's
The
what
Rock,
happens.
Stone Cold, and all of them were around.
I got sucked
Yeah.
in hard in high school because I wasn't allowed to watch it as a kid because this was I
Yeah.
grew up in the 90s and that was like peak like filth. That was when like Mae Young was giving birth to like Triple H was making love to dead
Oh, right.
bodies. Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
the crotch.
Yeah.
It was so vulgar and like
Yeah.
it was like Howard Stern
Yeah.
every day. So I was not allowed to watch that stuff. But then in high school, my brother actually turned me on to it. And I
Okay.
was like, "Oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen! Like, it's sports, but it's also theater. Like, I need." And the thing that always got me was the sound of the audience when like a really popular wrestler would come out.
Yeah.
The audience would just go nuts. It's called a crowd
Yeah.
pop.
Yeah.
Crowd pop is it's something that every wrestler. It's like a drug. Like it's like
Right.
opioids. You shoot it in your
Right.
veins, and you just want more. So I was like, I need to know what that feels like. So I told my parents, and I think most kids' parents would probably be like, "That's ridiculous. You're going to go to
Yeah.
college." But my dad, for some reason, he was fully supportive of it. He's always been very supportive when he can tell that I'm really passionate about something.
Yeah.
He's never really pushed me to do anything specific. He's just like, "All right, I can tell you're really into this. So, yeah, you can. If you find a wrestling school that's not ridiculously expensive and you promise to go to college at the same time, you can do it." So I did. I found um, the wrestling school I wanted to go to was in Atlanta, Georgia. It was the WWA4. It was the old WCW power plant.
Cool.
WCW had shut down and sold this facility to this old guy named Frank in Atlanta. So I went there. It was amazing. They had 4 rings there. This huge weight room. The trainer was Mr. Hughes from WWF, who had his only claim to fame was that he had this feud with The Undertaker in the 90s. But he was still a fairly well-known wrestler. Like hardcore wrestling fans, they're like, "Oh, yeah, Mr. Hughes, we remember him." But so I trained with him for a semester while taking classes at a college down the road, and then I came back to Chicago, and I wrestled in the indie circuit for like 3.5 years. I trained went to camps like once or twice a week. Never really made any money. Like I would get paid like $20 to $50 here or there. But I would also have to pay for my training. Like they have this thing where they make you pay dues to work for the company.
Oh yeah, of course.
Also, it's like doing stand up in New York where they actually charge you to perform at open mic.
Right.
That's kind of what the indie wrestling scene is like in Chicago. I don't know if it's like that everywhere, but the point is you don't really make any money. It's fun, but it's also very painful. I had some scary moments. Get knocked unconscious one time. Woke up backstage. Was like, "What happened?" They were like, "What are you talking about? We finished the match." I had no recollection of finishing that match.
Oh man!
I got dropped on my neck one time, and my feet went numb. I was like, "That's probably not a good thing." Like,
it's probably
like I know I didn't break my neck, obviously, because I was fine. But like they landed right on the point in my neck where my feet just went. I was like, "Okay, that's any harder, and I probably could have died." I don't know. So,
oh my God.
It got to be a distraction because like I was in college. I was like 21, 22. And all my friends were like going out on weekends, having all the fun that you're supposed to have in college. And I was getting the crap beaten out of me on weekends. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to put this on hold and I'm going to finish school. Yeah. And as these things tend to go, I just never went back to it.
Yeah.
It was something that I just figured out I didn't need in my life, but it's fun to talk about. I mean, And I'm
That
still a
is
fan.
cool though, that you did what you wanted to do, your
Yeah.
passion. You loved wrestling and you did it for like 3 years. That's a long time to stick it out and do it because it's not easy, I'm sure. Like, it takes a toll. And but then you went back into improv and now you're doing comedy. So last year was a crazy time for everybody. So I wanted to hear about your experience with the pandemic, like when everything shut down. What was your mindset going into it? And how did you deal with the off time, or did you do Zoom shows? Like, how was that whole experience for you?
Oh man, I think like everybody else, I assumed that it would last like a month.
Yeah.
I remember
Okay.
when the Comedy Shrine officially announced, "Hey, we're not going to do the open mic until things clear up." I was kind of relieved because I had never taken a break. I think I took a Monday off when my children were born. Other than that, I was maybe called in sick once. Other than that, every Monday for the past how many years I was at the Comedy Shrine, and it was great. I still love it, but I was like, well, this might be kind of nice. Like I can watch wrestling on Monday nights now for a month.
Monday
I can take a
Night
little
Raw.
break, maybe do some writing, like not have to come home, not have to like rush back out on Monday night. But then it just kept getting worse and worse, and when it finally set in, is like, hey, we don't actually see who knows when this thing is going to end. It started to get really depressing, and I did not do any Zoom shows. I did one Zoom show. One Zoom show. It was because my coworkers, I'm part of the social committee at work. We like plan, the fun events and stuff. They asked me if I could put together a virtual comedy show, and of course I'm not going to say no. Like, I love my coworkers. They've actually been very supportive. They came to see me at Zany's a couple times. Like
that's cool.
They're great, wonderful people, public school teachers, my favorite people. And so I'm not going to say no. So I put together this little Zoom show, invited just a few teachers who I knew had comedians who I knew had a little bit of teaching background, because there's actually quite a few of us out there. I paid them in coffee. We took took some money from they let me use some of our social committee funds to give them all a $20 gift card.
That's awesome.
And so we did this little virtual comedy show, and so it was okay. It's just I couldn't shake the feeling that like everybody in this virtual audience would probably rather be somewhere else right now. Like they probably feel obligated because this is our only Christmas party we're going to do this year. So they're and so I couldn't shake that feeling, and it's just and it wasn't this. I have so much respect for comics who did Zoom shows and Zoom open mics. Like, more power to you for keeping the rust off, but I couldn't do it.
It's a whole different thing.
You did quite a bit of it, right?
Audience. What's up?
You did it though, quite a bit, right?
I did a lot. Yeah. I just didn't want to, here's the thing with Zoom shows, like the audiences, of course, half the mics are off, like the cameras are off. And I know that going in, I'm like, there's no real audience. It's just, they're just looking, you got like a bunch of like Hollywood squares kind of thing going on.
Right.
But, I mean, it was like, whatever. I think the one thing I took out of it was like kind of like networking. I just, and then like the material you do, you really have confidence in your material, because you don't know who's laughing, what's going on. So in your head, you're like killing, basically.
I think that's what I was missing, was that confidence piece. I just couldn't get enough confidence to get on one of those Zoom shows.
Yeah, it's not easy, and it's like it took a while to get used to it. But like, I think, my only thing in it was like, I met a lot of cool people, met a lot of cool comics through Zoom. And but man, once things started opening up, I love, there's nothing better than the live audience in front of you.
I couldn't wait. I was one of the first people in my staff at my school as soon as vaccines opened up for teachers. I was one of the people like refreshing the screen to get an appointment. I drove an hour away from my house to get the first shot, and in February I was fully vaxxed at the end of February. Nice. And I waited the 2 weeks, and then I was like, let's get out there. Awesome. I went to some open mics that
Yeah.
you know I normally wouldn't go to because I normally have my own 2 minutes from my
Right.
house, but I
Right.
had to travel for open mics, Ragu. I had to drive more than 3 minutes to go to it. I drove all the way to Riddles. That's like 45 minutes for me to do 4
Poor
minutes.
you. Poor you. You
I
didn't
had to
have to
buy
go only
drinks.
3. I drove 20 minutes to come to the shrine. I live in Plainfield.
It was but it was worth it. I had to shake the rust off. I felt guilty that I hadn't done any virtual
Yeah.
comedy. I was like, I'm rusty. I have to get up on stage and do. So I went to some dive bar mics and I did like 10 minutes in front of 4 people. I was like, now this is comedy. Like we're back, baby. Like this is
That's the best place to really get back into it. You
yeah.
got, hey, that's awesome.
The shrine opened back up and now we're kind of sort of kind of maybe back to normal. Maybe.
Yeah, it's getting there. And now, it's almost normal, I guess. You can't be mad about people not wearing a mask anymore.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to deal with right now.
It
you
is
still
crazy.
wear a mask when you're out? I know obviously not in comedy, but when you're out in stores and stuff?
Yeah, I do. It's
too.
just comfortable. It's a comfort level. And also, see, we both have little kids at home and
that's the biggest thing.
It's that's really the only reason. I mean, I know I probably don't have to, but I do.
I do. Like my big thing is I don't want to be confused with one of these like anti-mask ghouls out there.
That's a good idea.
But it's also getting to a point now too where because if you're not vaccinated, you're supposed to wear a mask. I also don't want to be confused with somebody who's not vaccinated.
Who's not vaccinated.
I feel like I want to get a mask that says vaccinated across, just so I'm clear. Like I'm wearing a mask, but I am vaccinated. So I don't know.
It's so funny. There's always going to be a problem. Even if things get back to normal completely, everybody, it's just like let's say there's no pandemic anymore. There's no whatever. I think there's still going to be people with issues and people with this, that going on. That'll never die.
For sure.
That'll never die. But yeah, man. What are your plans coming up next few years? Like, what's your goal in comedy? What do you want to do?
I have this show at the Comedy Shrine on Tuesdays that I would love to get off the ground. I don't need it to be like a huge I don't need it to be a Broadway production, Michael from Second City. But I just wanted to get it off the ground to where it's something that normal working people will come out on a Tuesday and enjoy the show. So that's kind of like, I guess, a short-term small goal. But honestly, like I don't enjoy producing as much as I enjoy performing, like at all. It's not even close.
Okay.
And so as a performer, I would love to do longer sets, like right before COVID started. And this is why it got so depressing for me sitting at home doing no comedies, because right before COVID started, I had all this momentum. I was booking private events. I was doing longer and longer sets. I did a couple 45-minute like headlining spots for private shows, not clubs or anything, but smaller shows, longer sets. And I was starting to build momentum, get comfortable. I felt like I was finally at a point where I could, do those longer sets, and then everything just went kaput and there was nothing for 14 months. So I'm trying to get I'm trying to get that back, I'm trying to get to the point where I can start going after like feature spots and, eventually headliner. That's what I'd love to be eventually, just to be a reliable headliner. I don't need to be famous. I'm never going to quit my day job. I love being a teacher, and I honestly I think it makes me a better comedian and vice versa. I think being a comedian makes me a better teacher too. But I would love to headline. I would love to just be considered a reliable, funny, professional headliner, somebody who can close out a show and make an audience laugh for 45 minutes. So
yeah, definitely, man. I know that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen.
Oh, thank you.
Don't worry. Yeah, dude. Like, and I wanted to ask you this. No, Matt. Matt Drufke. He put up a cool post today. Actually, it was kind of interesting. It was about writing about COVID
Yeah, I saw
material. I
that.
don't know if you saw that. What's your take on
Yeah.
it? What do you think? Like, because I know a lot of people, there are people who wrote COVID jokes or people who wanted to avoid it. I wanted to hear your take on that. What you thought about that?
I think it's unavoidable, honestly. I think
Yeah.
you're going to be hearing, because again, it goes back to the whole relatability what's more related, like we all
Yeah.
have this shared experience. The trick to it, I think, is telling your story about like what happened to you during COVID.
Yeah.
I think people are going to get sick of like the same old like late night style hacky jokes about, what's the
Yeah.
deal with people wearing their mask and not pulling it over their nose,
Right.
like stuff
Right.
like that. I think
Right.
people probably will get sick of that if they're not already sick of stuff like that. But like if
Right.
I'm on stage telling my story and something interesting happened to me over the last year and COVID was a part of that, then of course I'm going to be doing
Yeah.
COVID material. And it has, like,
Yeah.
I've been through some stressful things in the last year. Like I got high
Yeah.
for the first time in the last year. I tried marijuana for the first. That was like a big, and that was because of
Congratulations.
thank you. It didn't go well. It didn't go well at all. No, I've like that's like a 5 to 10 minute bit that I've been working on. Actually, I'm not going to do it
Nice.
right now, but it didn't go well. But that was because
Yeah.
of COVID.
Yeah.
It was my birthday, May of 2020. Everything was shut down. My
Yeah.
wife was like, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" I'm like, "I just want to get stoned. I've never been high. There's nothing to do. I want to go out and sit in my deck. I sat right here in this very
Yeah.
spot."
Yeah.
And I just want to get high, and we'll invite, my brother over, because we more or less kind of quarantined with them. Like we
Okay.
hung out with them. We allowed ourselves to hang out with my
Yeah, of
brother and his
course.
family. So
You got that bubble, like the certain people that are
yeah, bubble. That's
yeah,
the term I was
exactly.
looking for. But so that's, and again, like that was something funny that happened to me that had to do with the pandemic. So
Right.
I think that's the key, is making it making it, telling your story about what happened to you, and
Exactly.
keeping it
And making
relatable
it
to.
personal, making it, and there's, and that's you're right. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah,
That's the
that's
best.
what people are paying when they come to see us perform. Like that's what they want to hear, our story, essentially.
Right.
They don't want to hear us try to
Right.
tell somebody else's story or the
Right.
world. They don't want to hear us do a Jimmy Fallon impression, like trying to tell the world story. Like they want to hear your story, your personal story.
And
So
that's a smart way to go about it. And I remember like a comic told me, like, that was one of the pieces of advice, was like, look, your name is Ragu. You're telling stories about you. Nobody's ever going to be able to take that. You'll never hear somebody else do the same jokes. Like, it's not possible because it happened to you.
That's the safest and best way to tell jokes, is to stay. I don't know if stay in your lane is the right way to say it, because people get up in arms. They're like, well, what do you mean stay in my lane? I can't. What happened to freedom of speech? But you do have to tell your story on stage. I think that's the best way to go about writing comedy.
Right. And it always amazes me, like a comic like Jerry Seinfeld, like his stories, they are relatable, but they're like these regular stuff that people have made fun of for so long. Like, who hasn't made fun of a cab driver, or who hasn't made fun of Halloween or wearing a costume? But it's so crazy how like famous he got. And he's like one of the best comics doing material that,
he
like,
can still do that too, which like is crazy. He released something on Netflix, I think last year or the year before. But I remember watching it and thinking, how is he still doing? Like, I was getting angry. I'm like, how is he still this funny talking about, like, you like cab drivers or something? It was
exactly.
such an old, worn out premise, but he was still finding new little morsels that hadn't been that had never been discovered yet. And it's that like perception that I think we all need to strive for, like that comedic, like, oh, look, this is finding those little gems in old premises that everybody can relate to.
Exactly. I know there was a podcast where they talk about different sets and stuff. They were talking about his cab driver joke with the BO and all this. It's like, we know every cab driver has BO, but he took it to the next level.
There's not even cab drivers anymore.
Yeah, I know, exactly. We can't even. I remember I had a joke about a cab driver. I had to change it to Uber. Like,
exactly.
It was crazy. But hey, look, I'm gonna get into this segment that I do every time. And there are
Okay.
these questions I asked every comic, and they're like crazy, dumb questions, but you just think about an answer off the top of your head.
Okay.
Whenever you, all right, you ready? All right.
As ready as I'll ever be. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
You made me nervous.
What's that?
I'm nervous now.
No, don't be. It's called Ragu's Hot Sauce Seat. Okay.
Oh, never. I'm not nervous anymore.
Yeah,
That's
no,
a great
there you
name.
go.
That's a
That's
perfect name. All right.
Yeah.
You set my mind at ease. All right, here we
All
go.
right, number one. All right. Name something you can do with a pencil besides write with it.
I'm really good at twirling pencils and pens. I can do the thing. If I had one, I would show you. I can twirl it around like a drummer. I never played the drums, but it's just something I taught myself to do in high school because I have ADHD, so I'm constantly fiddling with stuff. So I twirl it around my thumb, and I can twirl it around my fingers like a pro drummer.
Nice. That's very talented. A lot of people can't do that. I can't do it.
Just takes a lot of practice.
Number two. You're on a boat with a nun, an old man, and a baby, but there's only room for 3 of you, so you got to push one of them off. And I had to add a statement that they're not going to make it to shore because in the past people have thought that they will still survive, but they won't.
The old man. That's not hard. That's not hard. The old man is. You wouldn't like. You could tell me that there was room for all of us, and I would still push the old man off. We don't need any more old men anywhere. Like when I'm old, I'll take his place and I'll be a good old man. But
it's the best answer I've had, man. You're the first one that said even if all of them are still
there. Bye.
Nice. All right, that's cool. All right. If you were to choose between 2 superpowers, flying or invisibility, what would you choose and why?
Definitely flying.
Flying.
Yeah. Why? I just to get places faster. I love exploring. I guess you could explore invisibility. I guess you could explore like buildings and stuff because you could like sneak past security. But flying, you could like explore nature. I'm really I love nature. You could like I would like fly through the mountains and fly national parks and stuff. I guess if I had time, I would like rescue people or whatever.
Oh, but that's nice.
Mostly I would just explore the world.
That's awesome, man. I like that. All right. If you wrote an autobiography, what would it be called?
Oh boy, this is a tough one. Wrote an autobiography. God. Diet starts Monday. Never start a diet. You always want to start. If you're gonna diet, try to lose weight. You always want to start it on Monday. Get it. You don't want to half-ass it. Yeah, start fresh. That way you can go out with a bang, eat a bunch of junk food on the weekend, and then just start fresh on Monday.
Wow, that's probably the best advice ever, man. Like people are doing it all wrong.
Yeah, I don't know how to apply that advice to other areas of life, but I would try to
put on a Facebook, man. Just put a post to see if people will look at it. Like, you guys are doing it all wrong. That's awesome. I like that. I'm gonna try it.
Don't bother. It's fine. It's not. We're not at that point. We're still technically in a pandemic. Nobody has to diet.
That's true. We are. That is true. All right. If there was a movie about you, about your life, who would you want playing you?
If there was a movie about who, like any actor.
Yeah, like whoever. Doesn't have to look like you. Okay,
then Brad Pitt.
All right, cool.
For sure. Then, he's one of my favorite actors.
That's you, man.
I wanted to say him, but I wasn't sure if he was me because he's getting kind of old, but so am I. So
dude, you look like you could be his kid. Like you're young, man. Like that guy is getting old.
He is, but he could pull off, I think, any age still. Plus, they have the Hollywood technology where they make anybody look younger.
He did turn back into a baby, so
True, yeah, and that was even before they had that de-aging stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Okay, you're at a Walgreens or a CVS. What items would you buy at the store to make the cashier really uncomfortable?
Let's see. Cashier really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna look at the item and be like, "You're sick in the head." Like,
a
I quit.
pregnancy test
Okay.
and a knife.
Wow, that's like preparation right there. I guess
Oh God.
I don't know what that is.
But
That's
then like glare at the cashier like this the whole time she's
well,
ringing them up. I'm like, just
this,
it better be negative. It better be
this
negative.
this would have to be bought at like 3 a.m. in the morning, or you're on surveillance, and then we'll see you on like investigation TV.
Yeah. Oh God.
That's pretty scary, man. That's awesome. Oh wow, I love
It's
that.
horrible.
That's
Ugh.
good. That's good. This is what it's for. Like the wildest answers. So that's really good. If you were to meet any comic, dead or alive, who would you want to meet, and what would you talk to him about?
Oh, definitely George Carlin for sure.
Okay,
I know you said
cool.
dead or alive, but my mind immediately went to
George
dead.
Carlin. Yeah,
Dead because yeah,
cool.
I mean, I would love to be the one to fill him in
Okay,
on everything that's happened in this
on
country
everything.
since he passed away. I would love to be that person. That would be so much. Like he would probably die again.
Yeah, he
just
probably
listening to it.
would.
But
He's
yeah,
very like I love his like the political, like the way he
oh
talks
God,
about
yeah,
society and people, and oh yeah, he would have a lot to say, and then probably be like, "I'm going back to
yeah,
being dead."
yeah, yeah. He'd be like, "This isn't this. No, put me back in the ground."
Hilarious, man. Yeah, that'd be interesting if he was alive during the whole MAGA period and all. I mean, he probably would have had some really good stuff to say on stage,
Yeah, I would love to be that person to explain it, to fill him
Right.
in. Like, this is what you missed. This is
That's awesome. I like that. That is cool. Okay, so if your dad wanted to do stand up, what advice would you give him?
I would tell him to do improv.
Okay.
It'd be like he's more suited for him. He would probably have fun with improv.
That's cool.
More than I did.
That's awesome. All right, last question. You prefer ragu or prego?
Bro, I make my own marinara sauce.
Oh.
But if I had to pick, I'm going with ragu.
All right, cool. Yeah,
we do still. My wife buys, which it bothers me because I am a good cook and I do have a good marinara recipe from my mom. But she does occasionally buy. She likes the regular meat flavored ragu. I'm saying cool. Ragu.
Okay. Ragu,
but I think the sauce is pronounced ragu, isn't it?
Yeah, it is ragu.
You're ragu.
Yeah, you're right. I'm glad you at least know the difference. Like
I'm talking to ragu, so I'm saying ragu. But we do occasionally just make plain old spaghetti with the meat flavored ragu, and it's good. It hits. It's good. It hits the spot, especially in the wintertime when tomatoes aren't in season.
Awesome, dude. Anything you want to plug real quick? I know you have the show on Tuesdays, the 8 for 8.
Comedy Shrine open mic is always a good time. The list fills up. Up early. I think next week's list is already at like 20-25 names. So
nice.
Sign up early. Tuesday night, 80. Yeah. Just come to the show. Or if you can't come, just tell some people about it and be like, hey, if you're off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, go. There's the show. It's cheap. Exactly. It's $8. Go hang out, have some drinks, listen to good comedians, because we have good people on the show. Like that's one thing is I want to make sure it's a cheap show, it's an affordable show, but the comics are funny.
Oh yeah.
And then just follow me on Twitter, please. I'm sad I don't have a lot of Twitter followers. It's depressing because I work really hard on my tweets and I get nothing. I don't even have 300 followers, Ragu. It's terrible.
Oh my God! Hey,
I put a lot of thought into my tweets.
In 10 cents a day for this child. He needs tweets.
Yes, please just follow me
at angryGymTeacher.com.
Oh no, so maybe that's the problem. On Twitter, I'm Filline Machine. Maybe I should.
Filline Machine. Okay.
I should have a universal handle, but on Facebook, I'm Angry Gym Teacher.
No
on Twitter, I'm Filline Machine. So
there you go. Yeah. There you go. And do you have any shows coming up?
No, just 8 at the Comedy
Okay.
Shrine. Yeah. To try to get on some more shows.
You will, man.
But-
Don't worry.
Yeah.
You will. And once he's on there, guys, go see him. He is really funny. But yes, definitely go to the mic if you want to just check out comedy or you want to do comedy. It's a great place to do it. And 8 for 8 on Tuesdays, and then there's also a show on Thursdays. Dude, the Shrine is back. Like it is back. It's beautiful. It's a nice
it's
space.
big. It's a huge space.
You know, I feel like the old Shrine like was smaller, right? I feel like they had more stuff that they didn't put in. You know, because like,
are you kidding?
Is like
he's got more that's still not in there.
It's covered.
Dave, the owner of the Shrine, his collection is huge.
Yeah, it's big.
And it's constantly growing. There's never going to be a point where he's like, okay, I'm done. That's good now. Like people donate stuff. People bring him boxes of memorabilia because they know that he's into that stuff. So they just, it's a never ending stream of goodies.
It's great stuff. And if anybody's never been there, check it out. It's like a museum. They got everything. And they got Tom Filline on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Mondays and Tuesdays.
That's right.
Yeah, those are my nights.
So cool, dude. Yo, thank you so much for being on. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. It was fun
learning about your journey and everything. And I'll see you around, man. I'll see you at the Shrine.
Sounds good.
Care.
Thank you.
Take care, Tom. Bye.
See ya.
That was Tom Filline, you guys. Oh my God. So great to have him on. Definitely go check out the mic on Mondays and the 8 for 8 show on Tuesdays. A lot of fun. So next week, my guest is Carly Palestina. She's a comic from the East Coast. She does a lot in New York City. She's going to be my guest next week. So stay tuned and look out for the details. And again, my name is Raghu Adibatla, and this is Talking Funny.